And welcome back to Prime Time, where we've been debating the issue of whether it's time workers got a pay increase, given that there is some economic good news on the way. Jimmy, people make the argument that rather than pay increases, which some companies can't afford, we should have tax breaks from the government instead. What's wrong with that? Same effects at the end. More money than that.
We have been down some of this road before. Charlie McCreevy, is quoted as the example of going down that route big time and reducing taxes, and that's what was going to bring the country forward. We saw the results of that. It doesn't bring the country forward, and now we're into let's trade off employers who don't want to pay wage increases by a small reduction in taxes, which to the big number of people will be meaningless. The low-paid workers in this country won't see the benefit of tax
reductions. But if the tax cuts are directed at the low pay by for instance, USC bans. Everybody pays USC.
It will still only result in a tiny few euros per week.
But if you're looking for a pay increase of 2%, as against getting your USC of 2% removed, what's the difference?
We didn't actually say we're looking for a pay increase of 2%.
You
put one before that. So we haven't said that that's the figure, but we're saying clearly that a large number of workers won't benefit from the tax decreases. And also, we do want a society where we have a good health service, a good education service, a good housing system. So why should we go down that road?
Okay, that's the argument. Mary was making that argument earlier on. Fergal, you're talking about tax cuts rather than pay increases. There is one slight difficulty with that. The government doesn't have any money. We're borrowing $1 billion a month to pay for current services, which have already been slashed. So where are you going to get the money for tax cuts?
Yeah, well, we've been telling government for some time the income taxes are far too high, and it's great to hear the Taoiseach Minister for Finance in the last week really supporting that view. And the Minister for Finance has said now that if growth exceeds his department forecast of about 2%, there will be buoyancy for tax cuts. Right? Our income tax system here is completely out of kilter internationally. Employed people paying 52%, self-employed people paying 55%. The key here, David, if we get growth going in this economy, we will get buoyancy. If we get that 1% GDP at 3% rather than 2%, that would actually finance a 3% cut in the marginal tax rate, put a lot more spending into the economy, and really get a virtuous cycle going in terms of economic recovery. Okay. That's the direction we have to go.
Sorry, Mary, just very quickly.
It's very important to make that. I mean, what the Taoiseach and the Minister for Finance have been saying is that anything available in relation to tax reform goes into widening the standard band. That means no worker earning under 32,600 would benefit 1 cent from that type of tax cut. Okay. So that's not any compensation.
Okay, well, I just want to go very, very quickly to the audience, get some views from there. If we go first to Mary Van Gelder. Mary, hi. You're a shop steward with Pt2. I understand you work in the cleaning industry. What's your view on all this?
I'm a migrant worker and a student. Our parents afford to pay us school fees, and then the rest of the things we do on ourselves. We work in order to pay for transportation, food and accommodation as well, because most of our parents pay only school fees. So increase in minimum wage will help us a lot, even if it's small, even 1%, 4%, 2%, it will help us a lot, because most of us will receive less than €8.65 per hour. So if they increase by maybe 1%, it will help us more than that.
Well, Fergal, what do you have to say to that? It's a pretty unanswerable case, isn't it?
I think that clearly there's a lot of people in this economy that are having a difficult time at the moment. There's no doubt about that. What we haven't discussed tonight are the 12% who are still out of work. And as we discuss what type of society we want, Mary, what type of economic recovery we want, the first emphasis must be on putting more people back to work. Okay. In order to do that effectively, we have to control our cost base. And then, hopefully, we're going to have a bigger pie to share around. We've got to grow the cake.
I want to go back to the audience again. Robbie Perfield, is it? Hi, you're also a Pt2 shop steward, I think, in the retail sector, and I think you actually did have a pay rise in the last 18 months.
We did, yeah. It kicked in January 13 there, and it was in the region of 2%. Now, with USC and stuff kicking in January as well, we actually haven't seen it. We still lost out. So I mean, to be talking about tax cuts and stuff, even like lower paid workers aren't going to benefit from that. You have to take it into account things like water charges coming in next year. We've had property tax coming up. Like I said, the USC has kicked in, and people just aren't seeing it. We're being squeezed. We have to see a pay rise, and it's that simple.
Okay, Jackie Redden, where are you? Hi, Jackie. What's your view?
Well, I'm not against wage increase. I just don't think that it's time. I think the economy is still really fragile. I know from running a restaurant, like yourself, it's been really difficult over the last few years. And I think while we have seen a slight upturn last year, for the first time in 6 years, it's too early. We're in an incubator period, I think. So let's all just have a little bit of patience before the rise comes. And yes, maybe look at the government for a little bit of lower tax.
Okay, David Moran. Hiya, David over there. Yeah, sorry. What's your view on tax cuts?
I don't believe in tax cuts. It's asking the people themselves to pay for their own pay increase and keeping the company's profits up. I mean, we've been told for years that the tax base is wrong, and now suddenly we're saying let's cut the tax base. It doesn't make sense to me. And just one point, the man from the restaurant said that if unions gave free membership for a year, well, maybe if IBEC gave free membership to their companies, they could help them increase their profits too.
Okay, well, we'll get into that in a minute. Breda Cahill. Hi, Breda, you own a shop, then?
I own 3 stores in Dublin, and we're here and we're talking about pay increases. I mean, the challenges facing SMEs and independent retailers out there is absolutely huge. We're already facing the reversal of the employers' RSI back up by 4.25% for this year. That to me is worth about 35 grand this year. We have nowhere else to make cuts. We can't go back to our staff. Our bottom lines are barely in existence. Where are we meant to pull that? I mean, we're still paying the exorbitant rates. We're still paying high rents. And yet employers' RSI has already gone up by 4.25%, and you're sitting in front of us saying pay more wages. With what?
Okay, so pay rise would be in job cuts, would it?
Absolutely. I mean, in the last number of years, I've increased my employee numbers by 5%, and that was with the help of the 4.25% cut in employers' RSI. And all you're going to do that now is throw it out the window. My staff need job security.
Okay. Anthony Rock, you're a shop steward with Mandate, so you work in, I think, in the retail sector as well. So.
I do work in the retail sector, and to be quite honest with you, I mean, the panel are sitting there and they're discussing people's lives in relation to tax cuts. I mean, they don't know what it's like at the end of the week to have nothing left in your pocket. We're talking about people that need pay increases to put their children through school. School is not, we need a truly free education system in the country, not voluntary contributions. Parents do not have that. We need pay increases, and they need to happen sooner rather than later.
Okay, I want to go very quickly to Eamon Kilsey as well. Eamon is the chairman of ISME, I think. Eamon, it's payback time for people?
Absolutely. In our view, productivity is the key. We must have jobs, productive and economic, and without that we're going to struggle. And in our view, it's much better to grow the economy, reduce the unemployment queues by adding more people where productivity allows. If we don't have that, I'm afraid we're going to struggle.
Okay, we'll go back to the panel. Paul, if you want to...
That's it. We've a €20 billion fee per annum on social welfare. And this government has had an opportunity that no other government has ever had, was to completely overhaul and revolutionise the social welfare system, and they haven't touched it. And we need, you're 100% correct, that bill needs to drop in order for us to become more productive, to hire more staff. And we know exactly what you're saying. The gentleman that said outside there that we have no idea what it's like to have no money in your pocket. We know exactly what it's like, because we don't have any money left in our pocket. The self-employed people have put so much of a sacrifice, rather than see anything by cancelling their own pensions, cancelling their own salary to maintain the jobs that they already have. And I know hundreds of small business operators that have done that, so that they can keep their staff in employment.
Okay, Jimmy, there you go. Employers are feeling the pain too?
Yeah, and look, this issue is not going to be settled by IBEC pretending that pay increases are going to cause unemployment. The profitable employers are going to have to pay.
In fairness, we've heard from...
Yeah, and in fairness, people have said that pay rises will not cause unemployment. It's pretending that pay rises will cause unemployment. The only way there's going to be economic recovery, if the employers who can afford to pay pay wage rises that will go into the economy, that will stimulate an economic recovery. A low wage economy is not the future for this
who's going to
country.
decide which employers can pay?
Well, clearly the workers in every enterprise can be shown the figures by their employer and shown where the profits are and shown the increases in profits. That's how wage rises are negotiated.
Okay.
I think, David, particularly when you hear from the studio audience, you can see the struggles that people have in terms of workers, in terms of trying to keep a business up and running. Clearly the solution here is to get people back to work, get growth, find the resources for government to reduce the tax burden. That's the key to this. That's the key to this challenge.
The key is not simply putting out a narrow formula that's trading income reform against no wage increases. The other way of looking at it that most European countries do is they try and give moderate wage increases alongside a social dividend or a social wage. Decent public services that make it more affordable for people to live decent lives. Cheaper transport, school books, free education. That's the answer.
Just some time to take a couple of quick comments. Dan O'Neill, smart employers could increase efficiency and lower turnover by paying fair wages. Jane Mahoney, ideology never put food on the table but hard work and enterprise does. Donal Higgins, tax cuts benefit those on high incomes, wage increases benefit those on low incomes, it's those on low incomes most in need. Simple. Michelle Green, income tax cut on the way. It's a game of chicken between employers and government. So there you go. Thank you all indeed for joining us, Claire.
And that's it for tonight.